Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about The Gunslinger, the first novel in the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. So, as usual, we're going to talk non-spoilery thoughts and opinions up front, then move over to the spoiler section where we can talk in more detail. So, as usual, remember to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and let's begin. So, The Gunslinger is the first book in the Dark Tower series, and it centers around Roland Deschain. He is the Gunslinger. He is a descendant of Arthur Eld. He is basically a knight. The Gunslingers are essentially knights in this totally different world. It's not a contemporary of our world. It's a different world within Stephen King's multiverse. And this book was originally broken up into 5 different short stories. And Stephen King, in about 1982, he put them all together and added some, connection parts and made it a little smoother. And then called it The Gunslinger and made it the first book in his Dark Tower series that he was starting. So, in my opinion, I think this novel, actually still holds the roots of those 5 different short stories because it's very clearly like a beginning, middle, end, beginning, middle, end. It's kind of, you can still feel the structure of those stories within the novel. We have this really interesting establishment of who Roland is, and that he is after the man in black, which is where we get the really awesome opening line. The man in black raced across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Like, we get that really awesome line because he is chasing the man in black. Ultimately, we assume he's going to kill him. Like, that's kind of the plan. Like, he doesn't really know if he's going to kill him because he's not sure if, he can get information from him, because his main goal is to reach the Dark Tower. So his entire thing is trying to find him. And when we start off, we just kind of get this establishment of who Roland is, and like we go into this small town and stuff, and then we almost immediately get an example of the man in black's power. Like, he is a magician and he has done stuff in this town that is basically a trap for Roland. So we kind of start off immediately with this interesting setup and an interesting basically amount of consequences that Roland has to deal with, and we kind of establish this person that he is, this kind of not evil, not good, but will clearly do what he needs to do to further his mission. And it kind of goes on like that. Later on we meet his companion Jake, who is brought to Roland's world from our world in a really interesting way, and we get like direct multiversal kind of stuff going on there. I think this is a really, really interesting start off to a series because this book to me feels very dreamlike. It feels like very ephemeral in a lot of ways. It's hard to really get a good grasp on what's going on, even though everything that's going on is very clear, concise, and straight to the point. I wasn't really confused at all about what was going on at any time, but like everything around it, like the world building and stuff, feels so mysterious and feels so just unknown, even to our main character. We're following in the head of Roland, and it feels like he doesn't know stuff. Like, he's blacking out and like lost time and things like that, and like he's not sure, what's going on because the world is in a state of having moved on, and we don't entirely know what that means yet and stuff. So is very much implied to just be the end of the world. So like everything's kind of winding down and falling apart and stuff. And we get some really interesting hints as to the world that was before this world and like how it all got to where it is and stuff. It's really interesting world building, but a lot of it feels very dreamlike to me. It might just be me and my experience with it, but even on this reread, it still felt very dreamlike to me. A lot of it's just it like ephemeral. That's the only way I guess I can describe it. But it's really interesting. It's so captivating, and it like pulls you in. And as always, King's characters are really good. Like Roland, you don't get the full understanding of him, but you get like this really good intro to him, and you kind of see who he is, and you're not really sure how you feel about him and stuff. And that all feels very much on purpose by King. Like, he wanted to create this very complex character who's not just a generic, protagonist who's just a good guy and a knight, even though he kind of is a knight, but he uses guns and stuff. So it's a lot of fun. So the world building is top notch, the characterization is top notch, the entire story and plot structure of it is top notch, but it's like, it's not generic. I mean, it's Stephen King, so like it's got to be kind of out there. So it's just, that's why I guess I have to keep landing back on dream and like ephemeral. Like, that's the only way I can actually describe it. So I want to go into spoilers so I can talk a bit more about some of the more amazing stuff about it and some stuff that I noticed very much with hindsight. So, before we jump into spoilers, let me know in the comments what other series have you read or book that you've read that was kind of ephemeral, kind of dreamlike, something that you felt like you couldn't quite grasp, but was still interested enough to continue reading. Let me know about that in the comments down below. And so, spoilers for The Gunslinger by Stephen King. So something I really noticed upon a reread in hindsight is that at the end of the story, the palaver that the gunslinger has with the man in black is basically telling the entire story of the Dark Tower. So I'm going to keep the rest of the series pretty much spoiler free, just in case, you know, anyone who's still watching has only read through the first book. But that entire conversation he has with the man in black at the end, like pretty much every single thing that happens, every single thing that's said in that is revealing something about the nature of the entire story, apart from just revealing the secrets of the universe to Roland. It sends my mind off in so many different directions as well, because there was a huge gap of time in between some of these books where it felt like King wasn't sure if he was even going to continue with the series, and he didn't, like, it felt like obvious, you know, him trying to get his thoughts together and all that kind of stuff. But if you really read this last part, this last conversation with the man in black, and then you understand where the series goes and what happens with it and stuff, it becomes harder to believe that King didn't quite know exactly everything he wanted to do. It feels like everything is so much more fully formed from the get-go when you read it with hindsight. So it's a really interesting effect that it's had. And I really think the way he shows in that first bit, the first, what was, I guess, a short story, the way he shows an immediate trap by the man in black that sets him up to have to kill everyone in that town. Like, I thought that was amazing. Like, we get an immediate establishment. The man in black is a threat. He's cunning, he's underhanded and stuff, and he's going to just do whatever. And humans, regular humans, are just pawns. So we even learn more about that when Roland talks about, like, you know, him and his other personas, not personalities, but his other personas and stuff. I can say with hindsight that some of the books in the series are very straightforward sci-fi fantasy. This one is just very almost psychedelic. Like, I don't know, it's a really interesting establishing setup for the story, especially the way it ends with the entire palaver with the man in black and the entire situation of waking up 10 years older and the man in black being a skeleton. So like, that entire situation just has to make you want to keep reading. So it really did that for me, which is why I eventually finished the entire series, and just getting really excited to continue with this reread because I'm picking up so many more extra things. So I'm going to go ahead and end this one here, and maybe in the next review for the drawing of the three, I'll talk more about different connections and things like that. Probably go into a little bit more like entire series hindsight kind of spoiler section. Maybe. We'll see. I don't know. So make sure you hit the like button on this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will talk to y'all next time. Peace.